I'm a Waterbury native, and I always knew Holy Land as a really big hill with rocks and pretty vegetation that changed colors in the seasons. And I knew it most before it became Holy Land, before Mr. Greco, Attorney Greco, bought it and decided to transform it into what became Holy Land USA, and even had its own shiny postcards and busloads of tourists.
When they started to talk about doing the Holy Land construction, when John did, John Greco, who was a saint, he needed material. He then turned around and asked my mother if she would intervene and ask if he could have some of the equipment, some of the old cabinets, anything that would help in the construction of the Holy Land that he actually envisioned.
I remember going there when there would be quite a few people there on a Sunday, and there were all little replicas of the whole village, it was supposed to be the town of Bethlehem.
When I first got my license, kids had nothing to do, so we would just drive all over the state of Connecticut, and we would always see that up there, and we always wanted to go there. We were a little afraid, but then I learned that some of my other creative friends at the time said that they were able to go in there and that we should go in there, and then we did.
The time that I did go there was when my son was around 7, and I don't know how Will heard about it. I think he had asked me about the cross, and I said, oh, I'll take you up to see it. And he developed such a fascination that we began to go there a lot after I'd pick him up after school, and we'd go up there.
Sometimes on Sundays there would be busloads of people that would come from out of state, from all over the country, specifically to go to Holy Land. So there were, I think, 40,000 people a year that would come there.
He picked Waterbury, he said, because it was like the 7 hills of Rome. And he just knew that that site was where Holy Land was going to be. And he always envisioned building, and I believe this, a shrine to God. And I believe that's what his whole purpose was, is he was making a statement to Christians, and he was also making a statement to Jesus that and the Lord that this is where I am going to build your home.
I think because Greco was really guided by a force to build this thing, it was something beyond trying to do something fun for the community. It was his own personal obsession. So I think that obsession drove the creation of this and the innovative way he used any material. So I think that kind of innovative use to offer up to at the feet of his God was what drove him. You know, I think that's why it was visionary, because he had vision about what this was going to do and what he was going to leave behind. And also that it was a place that would probably save Waterbury in some way.
It was kind of like being in a fun house in an amusement park, only it was a sacred kind of thing.
I truly believe that he was sort of a conduit that came from a holy place. And I believe that he was so involved and had this vision of Holy Land in Jerusalem. Everything that he did, every statue, every building, every sign, everything mimicked exactly what was in Holy Land. And it was almost impossible to do what he did. But he did it. And he did it, I think, with divine intervention. And I believe that. I honestly, I never believed it before.
John Greco was a religious fanatic. He was really driven, like any of the Southern outsider artists were driven with like a voice from God to do this thing. And he wanted to pass on his religious beliefs to the next generation. That's why he built it.
My mother and her friends, her girlfriends, to the day she died, they had this, what they called the Tuesday Rosary Club. They were there. They went to Mass there. They did their rosary there. When John passed away, she got me involved again because the property started to go down. The religious order did not take care of the property, and it started to deteriorate badly.
Didn't know all the religious stories. I was interested in the construction and the reuse of materials, and I was interested in the nuns and why they were there and what happened to the dream and who were the people that were maintaining all the hedges.
The whole idea of this miniature city, this crumbling city that was up there, was so fascinating. And in fact, I think as it began to decline, it became even more fascinating because you could see the bones of it. You could see, for example, the overturned cooler where Attorney Greco had covered it with cement and made it into a house. And there were a few other things we'll enjoy. There were some statues that were often stolen by Yale students and then retrieved. There was a Jesus statue, and there was a Satan showing Jesus, you know, look on all this, fall down and worship me, it can be yours. That was what it was supposed to be. And by the time we went up there, Satan was in a cage just to keep him safe, and my son just insisted it was a bunny. I said, no, those are Satan's horns. He said, no, it's a bunny.
At the tail end, you could still see where the souvenir trailer was, and there were still things intact, but every year or two, it just, you know, the elements alone beat it down, and I think that it just became kind of a mess, and the sisters moved on somewhere else, and it was shut down, and I think that the police patrolled it often. I think kids caused a lot of mischief up there, so I think slowly or surely people would check in just to see what kind of shape it was in.
The younger sisters, I think, had a more difficult task. I think they had to give up the portion of running Holy Land and concentrate on keeping the buildings and maintenance and keeping the order of the nuns intact. So they were somewhat more difficult.
Well, the nuns were alone. They were two women, really companions, keeping themselves alive. They were watching the services on TV. They did not go out. They were not out in the community. They looked that they were very impoverished and that someone was really keeping them alive there. They were friendly, but it took a long time to get them to kind of come to the door and talk. They talked about how they would direct the classes through the different dioramas about the religious teachings with bullhorn.
sad to see something go into disrepair that was so important to a person. Anybody who dedicates so much time to put together and build something like that, in general, it's very sad to see it destroyed. But since he was my godfather and he was such a sweet old guy, it was very hard to see it become totally dilapidated and vandals going up there. And then there was a rape and a murder up there. And the thought that that happened on that hill, where it's such a dichotomy of positive, many years of positive action and feeling that went into putting it together and building it, and then to have it go into disrepair and have something so horrendous happen there.
We don't know what happened up there. We don't know what drugs were used or what people did up in the back there. That's sacred ground to me. There should be nobody in there, you know, and there's a young girl that got murdered. And, you know, what I think truly is that whoever and whatever does happen there has to have her, she needs a shrine there. She needs some, you know, method or memento of her sacrifice on that ground, because she went through a living hell.
It still could have been saved as a visionary environment. And I think an awful lot of people tried, and to no avail, because no one thought it was important enough, and it's too bad.
I think it was just such wonderful news to find out that the mayor was spearheading this move to buy it, because, you know, Holy Land was always there, and this beautiful hill overlooking the city. And my God, suppose you woke up one day and there was a big box retailer going in up there, or a string of condos. That I think there's a board of directors and they'll decide what to do with it. But certainly I think it was a great gift to the city.
I was chairman of the new committee for Waterbury, and we took on the project of Holy Land. We had a 5-year plan to rehabilitate, to bring it exactly the way he had it, and with other improvements to protect. And we had an abundance of money to do it, and we had over 200 volunteers ready, and the nuns turned it down. And then when they said they were going to sell it, I got involved to purchase it. We had the money to purchase. We had $250,000. I had put an offer in, legitimate offer in, and then the mayor of the city of Waterbury and his friend turned around and paid $375,000 and bought it, and they just put a cross in. So at least another cross is still there.
to now have it be kind of renewed and restored to a very positive thing feels like, you know, it was very smart and the right thing to do, and a very good thing to do, to kind of bring it back to a good place.
It was really interesting, and you know, kids could have loved it because it was there. The buildings were small like them, and they were a bunch of dollhouses. So it's, in a way, it's too bad. But you can still roam around there, and you'll see some rabbits. It's a little nature preserve. So I think a good use of it would be that if it was a place that, you know, there was nature again, and you were able to walk around and just be out of an urban environment for a while.
I think because he's the mayor of the city of Waterbury, he has his own ideas, and he will do what he wants. And he's basically in control. I'm a public servant. You know, as a public servant, what you don't do is you don't go into political arenas. Now, if in fact the mayor calls and says that, you know, we'd like to talk to you about it, that's one thing. But in discussions with me, you have to talk not about the cross. You have to talk about the entire project as John Baptist Greco originally envisioned and completed it.
You know, growing up my whole life, going through the city and on the highway, coming home to Waterbury, there was always that cross on the hill. And a lot of people say it's just this feeling, it's just part of the cultural identity of the town. And when you see that symbol, it's a symbol not necessarily of the religious fervor that brought it into being, but it's a symbol of your home and the kind of culture, you know, just a memory, those things that have been in your town since you were little.
I think one of the amazing things about it was, you know, maybe Attorney Greco's vision, and to take all those little parts and do it part-time and create this thing, and somehow when he was finished, it was actually like more than the sum of its parts. It was something that was somehow, it was kind of holy.
We have many historical places to go in Connecticut, of course, but this one was sort of the only visionary environment to that extent that we had. So it was a place that those who saw it and were inspired by it were lucky. So I think it was a good thing.